how do you think the collective thinking or even, just a collective present impacts your personal practice?
I think, yeah, for me, Dogo, the text I wrote, the alphabet was for me, the first time that I even thought about making art by myself. Because for me, the working collectively is like not only like an artistic practice that I find the most interesting, but it's also like a political and an activist thought, that this idea of the author, the artist, this genius person who just creates out of themselves is like, it's super male patriarchal, like dominated. It's a very wide concept too. And by working collectively, I think we can like build solidarity networks, build groups. We can try to subvert a lot of these structures that are still very powerful. And for me, also, writing a text is never something I do alone. I don't start on the white paper, but I start like weeks or years before everything I read, all the talks I had with friends, with family, at university, with people I'm in relationships with. And then I start writing, and then I talk again, and then I send it to friends and be like, can you read this? I don't know if this is just pure bullshit or if something is in there. So also the alphabet for me is kind of a collective work. And I really see that, but the system or the industry is really not ready for that. So that I'm now nominated for this award, and it's all a bit crazy. And they asked me for their social media thing to answer questions, and one of them was, when was the first time you called yourself an author? And I was like, never before. Because this idea of I'm the author of this text is just, no, there are so many people involved until the end. So but somebody that proofreads it, people that, yeah, I talk about too, also like these kind of talks that I have with you now, for example. It's also part of the practice. So for me, it's impossible to see myself outside of a kind of collective network. And of course, there are some people that are closer, that I would consider a kind of inner circle, where we have like an understanding of, okay, we really work together. And then there are other things that are more loose. And it's just people I met maybe on the street or at uni, or some texts I read and then make notes. And yeah.
How do you normally kind of wrap your head around it? Because at least for me, it's very overwhelming, sitting with like pages of text which that you've kind of written yourself, and you're all, I mean, at least for me, I'll be in a very vulnerable position most of the times when I'm writing. And then going back to those writings, obviously, and going back to that time often becomes very overwhelming to work with in the present. So how is that something that you tackle?
It's a difficult question. I don't know if I found I really found a way to tackle it. Yeah, it's something that quite baffled me as well. That I wrote these 80 pages something about sexualized violence, and it's super intimate and super personal and whatever. And I was really okay with it. Super vulnerable, super intense. I learned a lot about myself, but I kind of experienced like a kind of analytical moment where I kind of stepped out, and it was like, I somebody wrote that. I know it's me, but I also have a kind of distance to it. Maybe that's because of the super emotional topic that I also needed to establish this distance. But I would say what helps me most is just talking to people as good as I can. Like, yeah, looking, like asking questions, being honest with myself and in front of other people, of like being able to say, hey, I'm super overwhelmed and this is I don't know what to do. I'm afraid, or I'm really in doubt. I think that's something I'm trying to learn, also something of, yeah, the idea of breaking this author art genius. Like, no, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. And I'm afraid, or I'm hesitant to show it because I'm afraid people could find it bad, and to be honest about these things. Yeah, I guess. But I'm also like really anxious, and I know myself, and I start like researching and have like an enormous amount of material, and then I sometimes also need an outside eye that says like, okay, your voice is also important, and you don't have to prove everything with like a dissertation material of research.